Hello, a disembodied voice of a reader here. Are you interested in historical romance, or do you want to kill a bit of time listening to a wild love story? Either way, welcome. As the title suggests, we are not dealing with the serious kind of romance, but the one that's filled with tropes, where the main characters are melting under each other's touch, while acting like they share one brain cell. I grew up reading tons of these, because my grandma had a huge collection, and I recently came back to the genre. I found 3 books by Kathleen E. Woodiwiss in my own library and fell in love with the covers. I naturally decided to get everything she ever wrote. Thank God there are only 13 books. My bank account hands me essays, and I don't need any more animosity between us, you know. Before we get to the meat and potatoes, I have a fun fact for you. I didn't know it when I started collecting her books, but Kathleen E. Woodiwiss is often credited as the mother of modern historical romance. Her debut novel, The Flame and the Flower, albeit rejected by publishers at first, revolutionized the genre. She was the genius who thought to add spicy scenes to these books. How cool is that? I can't even imagine books without hot scenes in the genre anymore. Now, let us talk about the covers. As I already mentioned, I am a bookworm. Not only that, I am also a book collector. I couldn't help myself when I saw these covers. There are tons of editions of these books, from the half-naked woman dramatically splayed in embraces I hesitate to call comfortable, to decently clothed ladies in gowns I would like to try. However, the one that caught my eyes is the one you can see on the screen right in the middle. The artist behind this is Zugor Zoltan. For me, the cover perfectly encapsulates the vibe of these books that are filled with drama and heroes who are trying their hardest to escape undeniable attraction. For me, it screams passion and drama, and I love it. Well, now I believe we are ready to get to the plot. If drama and passion is what you seek, Shanna won't disappoint. Our heroine, aptly named Shanna, is super hot and super rich. Her father is a merchant, but the kind that could buy kingdoms if he chose to. He wants his daughter to marry into nobility and have kids like ASAP. Shanna wants to marry for love, which, understandable, and she can be fierce when all the men only care for her father's money. Her father is tired of her antics and gives her an ultimatum that she must marry until a certain date or he'll find her a husband himself, because that always works well, you know. This is not a spoiler, by the way, because this all happens off-screen and we're told that during the first chapter. Spoilers follow though, so continue at your own risk. Shanna's master plan is to find a prisoner sentenced to death and marry him. He should be dead in a few days, leaving Shanna free to continue doing whatever it was she was doing before this. She picks Ruark, and I have no idea how you pronounce this name, and I'm gonna butcher it for the rest of this summary, so prepare for that. So, she picks Ruark because he has a recognizable surname that belongs to some high-ranking people. The surname is Buchan, by the way. It is important for later, so remember it. I'm sure this won't come back to bite her. So this hot Ruark guy was convicted for killing a woman that was supposedly pregnant with him. He claims he didn't know the woman and that he doesn't remember the night he spent with her, but he woke up with her dead body beside him, which was enough for the judge. 18th century justice, am I right? We of course know that it was a setup. Like, he's the main character of a romance. He's not a murderer, come on guys. Ruark agrees to marry Shanna if she spends one night with him. Shanna reluctantly promises to do so. One marriage and a wild carriage ride later, I couldn't believe what I was reading. There is a smut scene that suffers from being questionably consensual. These books sometimes do this, when the woman does not want to do it at the start, but because there is a magical chemistry between them, she gets super into it. It's not how it works, but we are not reading these books to get realism, are we? I am in no way condoning this type of behavior, but if you ever read older historical romance, you probably encounter a scene like this, you know, so just a heads up. Anyway, back to the plot, if you can call it that. Shanna leaves for her father's tropical island without knowing her husband survived and was sold to her father as a slave. How fun is that? It's not above board, because the man tasked with recruitment is supposed to first find people who want to actually go to work on the island, or buy them from debtor's prison, definitely not from the gallows. Fortunately, the prison warden is corruptible, so he sells Ruark and puts another older man who died in prison in his grave. The way this whole slave thing works is that people on the island have to pay themselves out. They earn money by working for Shanna's father, and it usually takes about 6 years to pay off their debt, and then they can go do whatever they want. However, Ruark quickly achieves success by being cracked at planning and building stuff like a mill or a distillery, so he earns a lot more. His other pursuits include roaming around the island shirtless and reminding Shanna that she should sleep with him because she promised, and getting invited to her father's house because he is so bloody competent. She eventually caves, and what is supposed to be one night turns into a lot of encounters because these two can't keep their hands off each other. Shanna and Ruark continue meeting in secret for quite some time. There are several reasons for this, but the most important one is Shanna's disdain for Ruark. He is stubborn as hell. She wants to find a man of her dreams, she doesn't want to have children with a man that is officially dead, and if anybody finds out, he could still get executed. Plus, Shanna is afraid of her father being really mad. When he said she should get married, I don't think he had a convicted criminal in mind, During all this, a certain Captain Beauchamp visits the island and clearly states to Shanna there is no Ruark Beauchamp among his distant relatives. I am sure this won't come back later. Beauchamp invites Shanna and her father to visit him and his family in America, and then he leaves, but not before giving Ruark a music box. Ruark gives the music box to Shanna. Before we move on with the plot, I should mention another person. It is this poor noble who wants to marry Shanna. At first I didn't even want to name him, but his name is Gaylord, do with that what you will. And Shanna hits him after he gropes her. His other role in this story is mostly being offended that Ruark is treated with respect like a human being by everybody on the island, even though he is a slave. The same is true about the man who bought Ruark out of prison. He stalks around the island, throwing mad glances at Ruark, who is getting a bit too close to Shanna and her father. Even though she doesn't want to marry Ruark, Shanna keeps on meeting with him. Or, I suppose, it's not about marrying him, she's married to him already, but she keeps on insisting she is a widow, and she just doesn't want to be with him officially. That's the issue. But during one of the meetings, a woman who has been after Ruark catches them and insinuates that she is tired of being Ruark's second lover. That pisses Shanna off so much that she orders one of her most trusted servants to get rid of Ruark for good. He doesn't kill him, but he gives him to pirates. Ruark wants to get back, so he convinces them to try and rob the island. He gives them instructions that should lead to their capture and his rescue. They do not follow it precisely though, and in the end, Shanna ends up kidnapped as well. During their pirate stay, Shanna was the most infuriating person. The pirates obviously want to sleep with her, and Ruark is trying his best to save her. He has to pretend to be a pirate, fight to death to gain respect, and convince everybody that Shanna's father is going to pay ransom only if she is unharmed, which is a solid strategy if you ask me. He is doing all that while Shanna is furious about cheating that didn't even happen. All she has is a word of a woman who has always disliked her. Why don't you trust your man when he is trying his hardest to keep you alive and unharmed in the pirate's lair? And he would have to be crazy, crazy good and bad to handle so many encounters. He was meeting with Shanna all the time. Where would he get time to meet with somebody else? I don't get it. I really don't get it. Well, time to move on from that, I guess. So, Ruark spends his days fending off pirates who try to get to Shanna and plotting their escape. They steal a boat and navigate it through a swamp. Don't ask me to tell you more, because I don't get the logistics of that. So, Ruark gets shot, but he perseveres to sail the boat to safety, and Shanna is by his side during all this. She tries to take care of him, she doesn't leave him, she supports him. It's getting really great, And when they reach her father, Ruark collapses because his injury is really bad. She steps in and saves him from getting killed. Shanna's father learned from the people who were sent to ask for the ransom that Ruark claimed Shanna as his, mistress, and, he wanted to kill him for getting it on with his daughter, which, he was, but not when they were with the pirates. There he was mostly pretending to do so she wouldn't be bothered by other men. But As I said, Shanna steps in, saves him, and then proceeds to nurse him back to health without letting the doctor amputate his leg, which was really cool. She gains a lot of points she lost when she threw a hissy fit for nothing. So now I actually started liking Shanna. After Rourke wakes up, he works for a bit, just enough to survive suspicious number of near-death accidents, and the woman who has sown discord between Shanna and Rourke is found dead. And now it's perfect time to move all our important plays to America for the final act. Shanna loves her man by now, and she is pregnant. For these books, it's a dead giveaway that the ending is near. Shanna is afraid to tell her father about her husband, and it's not only because he could be mad. Rourke is still a convicted criminal, and he can get executed if her father decides to go to the authorities. This entire thing raises so many questions for me, like, is she a widow when he's legally dead, or does the reality prevail? Probably the latter, even though today it's usually the former. If somebody is declared dead and then reappears, his marriage is still over, like at least in my country. But I don't know, it just fascinates me. While visiting the Beauchamps, it quickly comes out that Rourke is one of them. Captain Beauchamp didn't lie, he just didn't mention Rourke is his brother, not a distant relative. He also gave him the music box, which was filled with money. Rourke could have been 3 months ago, but he wanted Shanna to fall in love with him for who he is, which in her eyes was a convicted murderer. Anyway, he achieved his goal, but now somebody tries to kill him by trapping him in a stable and setting it on fire. There is this whole thing about Rourke being a horse whisperer I didn't get into because this summary is already long as is. One failed murder attempt later, Shanna tells her father she is married to Rourke, and Rourke tells Shanna he is part of the Beauchamp clan. No time to enjoy marital bliss, because Shanna found herself kidnapped by the poor fortune hunter. He quite helpfully explains that it was him who tried to kill Rourke multiple times. He also instructed the woman who said Rourke was sleeping with her to ruin the relationship. He later killed her because she was pregnant and she knew too much. Lastly, he killed the woman Rourke was found next to and convicted for killing. Rourke finds the kidnapper, and with Shanna's help they take him down. Power couple. In the epilogue they have twins, a boy and a girl. And this is the end. I wanted to talk a bit more about the characters, and basically we have Shanna, our main girl, Rourke, our main guy, the good guys and the bad guys. First, Shanna is quite immature, and it's clear she wasn't challenged much throughout her life. She can be quite impulsive with the whole marrying a criminal, falling for him and then trying to get him killed for cheating. She can be stubborn as hell, especially about her own feelings. However, you got to consider the fact that she is about 18 or 19, I believe, so you cannot expect tons of emotional maturity from her. Still, trying to get people killed is pretty uncool, you know. Rourke is way older and not much better than her. He snaps when he is denied by Shanna at the start and then spends his days haunting her favorite spots and reminding her he was supposed to have a full night. Really classy. Eventually, he gets what he wants, but we all know that was not his end goal. What bothers me about him is that he is often right, like she promised to sleep with him, for example, but the way he goes about it can be horrific. Like my man. For example, she is ridiculously angry at you, even though you didn't cheat. You can just use your words to say something other than how much you want to sleep with her. Or when she's like, I can't tell my father I married a criminal with nothing to his name, he could have just said something. He wanted her to love him for him, but bro, your upbringing is a huge part of who you are. All the prowess in planning and building stuff, his speech and manner, his values and education are all a byproduct of his social status. I don't think it's fair to blame her for not wanting to have kids with a man that killed someone in a brutal manner and was to be hanged because of it. The kids would either be illegitimate or kids of a criminal. Bright future all around, And even if they manage to overturn his conviction, as of the situation is right now, Shanna believes he is nobody, and her kids would be treated like trash if they were the kids of some, a low-class man from England, So, I don't know. It feels pretty immature. Well, the rest of the characters are either the good guys helping the main pair or antagonists. This author really goes hard when it comes to villains. There are always at least 5 people who have insanely intense hatred for one or both of our fated lovers. You can recognize the villain by his hateful and vulgar threats. Here the main villain is the poor fortune hunter, but there are many others. The prison warden, for example, the judge that sentenced Ruark, the human resources guy for the island, the woman who later got killed, and a full island of pirates. It's ridiculous. I love it, you know. And it may seem like I dislike the book, but it's actually pretty entertaining, you know, in a way. If you don't take it seriously and just enjoy the ride, I think you can get quite a bit of enjoyment of reading this book, you know. Well, I've been yapping for quite some time, but I think we still have time for some closing thoughts. What you should know is that Kathleen Woodiviss's prose is so evocative and it just pulls you in. And as out of pocket as the plot sometimes is, it feels really genuine for some reason. Like I really cared about the book and how it was gonna go, even though I hated Ruark at the start for being obnoxious, and I was so infuriated with Shanna for how she was behaving in the middle. By the end, I was so invested in the book, and it's not something you get every day. The worst thing a book can do, in my opinion, is to be boring. And, you know, I'm gonna give this book 3 stars. I cannot justify giving it anything higher because it has its flaws. We talked about them a lot during this summary. But I enjoyed it, you know. And if you think it could be for you, give it a try, you know, and let me know how it goes. See you next time. Bye bye.